TSS clubs, be it sociography or just in general TSS. So what are we gonna do at that meeting? Eat tons of pizza, because we bought a ton of pizza, and decide what we're gonna do with the rest of our money. How much money do we have? Who's familiar with clubs on this campus? CSO sponsored clubs. And how much money do your clubs that you work with have? 500.
Oh, I'm Florida, so
Oh, you are?
yeah,
Oh,
I'm the treasurer.
okay. 1,500, pushing 2,000 USD, US currency. Not to mention, Vicky's gave us another 500 that we can do whatever the hell we want with. Why would you be coordinating? That's 2,500. Then I found out about another. A grad student told me about this grant that he sits on the board of, and we can get $1,000 this semester and $1,000 next semester. But with that, we can't just do whatever we want. So we can buy shirts and we can buy nice shirts. He had the synthetic blend polo shirt, maybe golf, swingers wear, or yeah, like that kind of thing, right? That's like what modern golf shirt is, right? Yeah, they seem to go. So he had to get 10 of those, 20 of those at 25 a pop or something like that. Yeah, so you go to the class, style and class. Exactly.
What do you want to do with the rest of it?
Basically, this whole thing really turns into a waste something. It's all a scam. We put in. That's fine.
He tells us to everyone.
The whole thing is a freaking scam. Somebody is figuring out how to rob the system here.
Okay.
So every semester, you have, whether you take 1 credit or 20 credits, you have to pay how much in student fees?
A lot.
How much? 200?
Four,
Let's say it's $500. How many students are there?
60,000.
60,000 students paying $500 a semester for student fees. For student fees. So what's $500 times 60,000? With a decimal place over twice, 60, 600, 6 million times 5 is $30 million in student fees. That's not tuition. That's student fees.
What about the deposit?
That's how we got a new gym that I'm not allowed to use. Because it's student fees. It's for students. If I want to use it, I have to pay money. So still with that, I'm not going to. So then that student fees, of which you still got to pay for parking. Now, if this money gets, I don't know how it goes for, but CSO is a small little piece of that budget, right? So, the CSO, clubs on this campus can apply for things, and you get $500. And if you don't spend it, then you lose it. So where does it go? When do you lose it? Where the hell does it go? It doesn't roll over. Somebody just if you don't spend it, somebody else takes it. But really, the easiest way to spend it is to buy food on this campus. So basically, it's just to have they reject it every time you apply for funding. It just becomes impossible. The only thing that's no problem, you just streamline if you want a campus event, but that doesn't cost money. So you have to spend your money on something, and it ends up being some type of catering. You're just buying more food. And I'm so glad they got rid of Aramark, because they was the real criminals behind the whole thing. But I can call out names they're not.
They come.
But somehow in there, something's not quite making sense. The what?
You are Michael Smith.
Watch The Office.
Kind of, not really. I know what it is, but I don't know. What did he do? He went on
There's an episode called Surplus, and Anyway, you just,
Got budgets.
you just, it's exactly the same.
We're still on census 30.
A couple people had a question. So to make the percentage to know Latin percent, you divide Latin by the total. We want to know what's the percentage of students that actually do work in here. And we have a total of supposedly 25 students, but only 5 of them actually do any work. So what percentage of the students are actually doing work? That would be 20%. 20%. You take the 5 and divide it by the 25, and you multiply it by 100 to make it a percent. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of 25. If we took 13, hold on. Oh, stop it. Clear. 13 divided by 25 equals, and then multiply that times 100. That's about 52% of the classes here. I took the number we're interested in and divided by the total, and that's how we get the percent. So to find out what percentage was Latin, I took this one, divided it by this one. We want to know what Latin poverty, out of the Latin this is what I also was stressing too, equals, say, this is Latin poverty divided by Latin population. Thank you. So that's Latin, the Latin population below poverty line out of the Latin population. If we want to know what the Latin poverty is out of the total population, it's a very different number.
3.8%.
Well, that's just the Everglades.
Yeah.
If we took, so these numbers, when we are trying to say what something significant out of the population is, we need to make sure we understand what it is that we're trying to say. There's a big difference between Latin, if we divide up poverty by Black, white, and Latin, versus if we divide up the population and then look at the percentage that's in poverty, you're gonna get a different number. Very different number. But I think all we were doing was just dividing and then multiplying by 100 because it's a percent. And I think in this class I even said per, like in some Latin, like cent means 100, I bet. I can't speak Latin. I don't think anybody does. You can read it, but I don't know how you can know how it sounds, right?
It's usually
I
complicated.
think you have to, like, if you want to look at the archives in the Vatican, you have to know that.
Yeah, you can read it, but nobody knows how it's, you know how it sounds? How it's supposed to be spoken?
It's very
In
clear.
Catholic, yeah, it's traditional Catholic.
W's are no.
Yeah, these are W's and like.
Right, but like,
different.
But it's still made up.
it's still made up, like, it's done in a,
You don't really know.
no, it's a dead
Like,
language, it only exists.
salve means hello. Like I took Latin for 2 years, but I don't know how to play. Yeah, but salve means hello. and-
So put it in context. I remember sometime in high school, like, oh, take Latin, I'll help you with SAT. That is the biggest rock.
I think
You
it's
ever
just if you're
hear
gonna go in
what-
medicine, if you're gonna go into biology or medicine. like-
Perhaps all of the stuff is written. But
Yeah.
our language is not Latin, so it's not like it's even like you understand English. But what I was getting at was cent, I'm sure means 100 in Latin, because in Spanish, 100 is.
Yeah.
Exact, is what?
Yeah.
Yeah, per cien, percent. Per 100 is what we're saying when we say percent. Exactly. Keep it in English, people. Okay, now you lost me. So, what would help to get this thing so that you, all three of you, is somebody else in here not done yet? Somebody out there who's listening or watching? Who would I open to that post like that, the video?
Oh.
I know you're thinking like, what the hell is he talking to? I'm talking to the computer over there. But they can't talk back though.
But again, it's live, they can check
It's
it.
live.
Oh,
Next-
really?
Next class?
Yeah,
No one's watching.
Oh, no, it's.
You can promote it.
Nice.
You can catch me on live stream.
That is a good idea. I'm gonna do that.
It's going live every Thursday.
Live.
Alright, we're gonna do that.
Next class.
Yo, nobody's gonna be here. I still need you to set it
I
up
got
though.
Going live.
Yeah.
Research methods.
Yo, that is gonna be the thing soon. Like, yeah, you know, making it all the way to campus is not working with what I got going on now. And as soon as you're gonna stay in their pajamas at 2, like I slept in today at 2 o'clock in my pajamas, and I'm just watching it
Make
on
the whole school like movie studios.
Yeah.
All the classes. It's gonna be evidence.
I mean, so if there's nothing more to say, everybody's ready to move on. We know how to make a percentage and try to like play. The whole thing is you're supposed to play with the percentages to find what we think is significance in there. Is there a male and female with poverty and diploma? Is there a little issue there? Like, we have the male and female separated as data. Did anybody explore that? Is there
I mean, yeah, I compared like female no diploma to female poverty, and like it was like the same.
Yeah.
And then like for men, the no diploma jumped, but poverty stayed low. So it didn't really like I felt like for men, no diploma didn't really matter for poverty, but for women, when no diploma increased, their poverty also increased.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
And across the
Because
board.
like in Homestead, males had like 40% of males had no diploma and 15% were in poverty. But only 30% of women had no diploma and 16% were in poverty.
Okay, that is really significant right there. That's a good job. You know what? You know what? Ulua.
Who you are.
Ulua. But it's ULLOA. Not Ulua. Ulua. Ulua.
It's all about.
I think
It's all vowels. Well, 2 of them are L's, but we'll count them as vowels.
I mean, in Spanish, it ends up
Yeah.
being all about.
In America, but yeah. But that was the consonants or vowels?
In English?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There-
consonants.
It's consonants. I'm kidding. But he said my name is all vowels, and I said, well, 2 of them are L's.
Yeah, because the L isn't like
And
an
I
L.
said,
Y.
yeah, but
Like I said.
yeah, tune in next week. So where's he going?
BRB.
BRB.
Be right back.
Oh,
That's just about the page.
what is that?
It's
That looks like
a
that
old school.
Charlie Chaplin camera or something.
Yeah.
1 modules. So, in module 2, I think in the email, did I send an email? I sent a lot of emails probably. That we're not, I came up with a system here so that we can just use, so in module 2, we learned how to read and understand what happens in journal articles. And we had 3 examples of it. Then in module 3, we're going to combine everything we've done this semester. Being able to read journal articles, being able to take data and make a methods and data section, and put this into our own little study about Miami. So even though we took longer than the schedule originally had for module 1, what we're just going to do is take the module 2 articles and then use them for our module 3 articles. So that this is now, surely it's in module 2, but we're going to count it as 3 also. So you're getting credit for 2 things. You don't sound happy?
Oh, well, yeah, that's amazing, that's work.
Well,
Not really, but, okay.
I mean, we would have had to have read a total of 6 articles, but now we're going to read 3. But no, I'm so gosh darn it good that it makes up for it. Are you confused?
Tell me something.
I know. So, all right, when we read an article, it has these sections: a abstract, a lit review, methods, data, and conclusion. That's how every article is. It's how science is always presented. Even if it doesn't exactly say those words, sometimes it'll say results or findings or background or introduction. What does it say? The lit review is that the abstract is an overview of what the whole thing you're doing is. The lit review is what have other people said about this. What are you contributing to? What is the ongoing research happening in this topic? There's never one paper that just settles it, especially in social sciences. There isn't anything actually really that conclusive in social science. We are building on a continuing conversation. Like, we're never going to have one paper that just solves it of what is the problem of poverty and school performance. Not going to happen. Each person is different. Each little caveat of neighborhoods is different. So some places it might be working out that they are low income, but they are doing great in school, and other places it's not working out so good. Even still, like they'll be like, you had an emergency needed snacks.
Yeah, I was hungry.
Before class, you didn't have time to get chips?
Yeah, I did actually.
You did? So, huh?
I apologize.
No problem. And so a lot of times the social sciences don't get the like the credit of the physical sciences as being as difficult. But when you have to, like, if you create, like, you know, take hydrogen and oxygen, and you can write the paper and it makes water or it makes hydrogen peroxide, and the paper's kind of done. And that's kind of it about hydrogen and oxygen, right? And you can create things in the lab where this is, you know, where you can account for basically all elements happening within this little contained area. You can't, we're studying poverty and school performance. We can't account for as much. So our methods in social sciences got to be that much stronger. Because we need to take into account everything that's going on, the difference between Little Haiti and Liberty City. You can look at maybe at the same numbers of what is poverty, what does race mean, and the school performance is going to be different. And there's going to be a non-stop amount of, like if this was a chemistry lab, but we're talking about Liberty City and Little Haiti, there's non-stop other factors that are like, I hate to say contaminating our lab, but like there's a lot of other factors that are happening. So if we just wanted to look at hydrogen and oxygen or Liberty City and Little Haiti, there's a whole lot of other factors that it would be like, we're going to constantly have to keep writing and keep on validating what this is, how might this little piece of information, this factor be affecting things. All of that. So the social sciences are very difficult. So anyway, what we're doing, when we do it in those sections, the lit review is what everybody else has written. So to do that, we need to understand, like in module 3, how to read journal articles. And you've probably been assigned journal articles. For a few semesters now. Probably somewhere around the end of sophomore year, and now you're junior and senior year, and you've been assigned, you probably had to read numerous peer-reviewed journal articles. You get much from them? Why not? Sometimes. It's hard to get anything out of it. It's hard to understand how to even read it. It's not a page turner. It's not Fire and Fury. Michael, I forget his name. Wolf inside the White House looking at the chaos of the Trump administration. That's a page turner. You want to read every word because it's a story. A peer-reviewed journal article is not a story. Where have you been? I feel like I haven't seen you in so long.
I saw you last week.
In this class?
No.
No, not this. I mean, I haven't seen you on a Tuesday in so long. I know you don't miss your Wednesday class.
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
But Tuesday. We're live streaming it. You could have just stayed at home. A lot of traffic.
I figured, man. I see all the lectures online. I'm like,
I know.
I'm here for you, though. I want to hear. You.
I feed off of your energy too. What was that? Lit review. Yeah.
They're hard to read.
They are hard to read. You're not supposed to read them like it's a novel. You're not supposed to. That's why all it is information you're trying to pull out, and clouded in there is a whole lot of words and sentences that sound like they should probably be like run-on sentences. I'm not an English major, but some of those sentences seem way too long and too many words that I don't know in one sentence that I had to like stop in the middle and be like, all right, what was that word? And then you get to the end of it, it's like, wait a second. Was that one sentence that all the time?
Or something
Yeah, right? I know. Why would you write like that?
Because it depends on who the consumer is.
It 100% does. When
They're writing.
it's kind of odd that we would assign journal articles because the audience of the journal article is their peers. And they're so specific. You've never been assigned an article that's gotten a whole lot of readership. That's never happened because there's no journal articles that are like that. Possibly, you've read in like the Atlantic Monthly a collection of articles that's been summarized and made like consumable by the public. And the Atlantic is written on a college level. It's not like it's junior high school level writing. It's not a newspaper. It is a journal, but it's not a peer-reviewed journal, but they take what is happening in the, especially social science world, and make it able to be ingested by regular people. But these articles, in any given article, like the ones we're about to read about schools and performance, like it's only written for other people or in that specific field. So when your professors assign you articles, they're assigning you articles that's for them specifically. It's not just your average geography paper. It's not your average urban geography paper. It's my specific field is like housing and urban economics, right? Well, nobody would read a journal on housing and urban economics except for somebody else who's a researcher in that field. So why would we even assign that to you? Because it's not really that important for you to understand what geography is to read an article that only like 20 other people read. Literally, an article that's popular, maybe 20 people read it. But you decided to do a research degree at a research university. That was your decision, not mine. My decision was to teach research methods. So we, and I am not that much different than you, except for that I'm older and I'm better. Not better as a person, but better at, this thing. Because I've been doing it for like a long time. I'm like twice as old as most of you. Yeah. I'm 42. Most of you are like 20, 21. Yes. Some of you might be older. Maybe, I don't think so. No. Yeah. I don't think so. One is. All right. All right, a couple of you are. In general, 22. Great. My fault. That extra year, you learned so much. Now we're equals. We're colleagues now. But it was a big leap when I went from undergrad to grad school, and then like, holy cow, we had to read. I kind of was like, you had been assigned as undergrad, like peer-reviewed journal articles, and I kind of was just like, I don't. It's taking like a 20-page paper would take you like an hour. You're just staring at the pages like, I don't know what just happened. I gotta find something to pretend like I latched onto that. So when I go into class, I can pretend like, well, I thought it was really interesting. This part, this one little paragraph, I understood in there. But they don't teach you how to read it. They just assign it, and it'd be like, this is what I got a PhD for, and I've been studying for the past 40 years. You, who are never going to do this, you read this article, and let's discuss it on my level. That just makes no sense in the world. But there's like an arrogance also to like academia of like, it's not like so much of the teaching isn't so that like we can all be in this together. There's so much more of like, I'm the authority figure. Let's just sit around here and marvel at how smart I am when I talk about my little world.
You paid to
So, but there is a simpler thing we're supposed to be doing with this and all nonfiction in general, outside of like biographies and autobiographies, but like your textbooks, any type of informational paper, any type of scientific journal paper. You don't read it. You don't necessarily even need to read from the beginning to the end. First of all, in the paper, we're learning how to put together a lit review. To do that, we need to understand how to read the articles. Within the article, though, there is something called the lit review. Now, that's what this author has read all of this stuff about, say, school performance. And it's all of this readings, all of this literature that their discussion about their study is going to be about. And that is about 1/3 of the paper usually. It's about a lit review. Now that part, you just get the background of it. That part should probably be the easier reading, but again, you kind of get the gist of what's happening in there. That's not even that important to inform you of what this paper is. That's to inform you of what this author was thinking when they came up with their study. Their study doesn't happen until you get to the methods and data. That's going to be the harder part. The conclusions are usually a bit of a letdown in a science paper, social science paper, because, like I said, there's nothing really that conclusive about it other than we took, like, you're never going to just solve. You're thinking conclusions are solving the problem or finding the formula. It's not. Conclusions are more like a continued discussion. Well, with all of these factors, what we laid out, this is what we're finding. And it's going to be like, after all of this 20-page paper, the conclusion might be 1 page. So,
Usually leads to more questions.
leads to more questions. Exactly. And that's how we continue our studies. That's how we continue getting grants. That's how we continue.
And a professor is like, all right, done.
Like I saw this.
This is what I wanted to do.
So what I need you to do when we, all right, so what I start off saying, we'll read 3 peer-reviewed articles. Upon completing this assignment, it will assist you in the following: learning how to extract the necessary information from a study. That's what we're trying to do, is just find out what was significant in there. Not necessarily their summary of the lit review, but what did they do in this study? That's what we really need to find out. Learn how to build a lit review from articles. We're not building a lit review from their lit review, though. We're building a lit review from what their study was. Their study doesn't start until the methods. Methods, data, and conclusion is what their study really is. Summarize the methods, summarize the data, and summarize the conclusions. Okay, so we need to become experts in navigating the FIU library system. Some of your student fees, I think that comes from student fees, go to pay for our library system. And it's like, so it came out to 30 million per semester in student fees. That's a pretty penny. Probably per year. I mean, we subscribe to every journal, I think, that is. If we're at a major Research One university, we probably there's not going to be an actual, a real, it's hard to say real, but like, yeah, I'll say real, a real journal that we don't have access to. Probably. So every year our school spends, and I quantify it there, a lot of money to subscribe to peer-reviewed journals. We all have access and need to learn how to search the database. See, when they assign you these articles, did you ever learn how to search it? I bet you learned wrong. The best way is to do it. You got the right way, and you got the wrong way, and you got the Derek Scott method. First, step 1, sign into the library. Sign in. Step 2 is go to scholar.google.com. When you're, Google knows everything. I don't know why Mark, what's his name from Facebook? Zuckerberg had to go to Congress. Google should go to Congress. Yo, Google does a billion things more than Zuckerberg could ever do. And they're just like, oh, well, we need that one though. I don't know. So they know when you're signed into the library and when you're not. So that, but Google is, and I'm not the type to be like, let the private markets, solve problems. But Google's so much better than our library system. It is so much easier to search on scholar.google.com. Google Scholar?
Yeah, Scholar.
It's where you search for, it's a Google for journal articles.
Yeah, so like when you do your research, they can show you peer-reviewed stuff.
You can just look at peer-reviewed articles, so it's not going to give you all the other shit. It'll just be stuff, sorry. It'll just be peer-reviewed articles, and it's such a better search engine.
I use that to like look for it, and then if I don't have access, then I go to FIU.
But if you log into FIU, into the library, you will have access because Google will know.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Sometimes it's like, I don't know, sometimes it won't, and then like you have to go log in again, I don't know.
yeah, sometimes you do have to log in again, yes. But as long as you are logged in, you should be able to, and especially if you want to dig around to find something and you don't quite know what you want to find yet, oh my God, is Google better than our library. Their topic search is just like, ours just like sucks. I don't know what else to say. It sucks though. like Google should like run the world. Oh, Google does run the world. Like even using YouTube to film a class, if you try to see on Blackboard their version of like filming your class, it's just like even Blackboard. Holy cow! If Google ran Blackboard, I don't know. Canvas became a little bit better than. It's a lot better than Blackboard. But like if Google did it, like forget about it. Oh my God! We were still using it up until like last semester. We were still using Blackboard. Like I couldn't believe because I went to college later. And like Blackboard looked the same as when I went to college though. And I was like, you know, you only use computers for how you're using computers. And I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be cool. Like college is gonna be like way beyond what it was when I was younger, because it's like computers now. And I got there, I'm like, this is all y'all are doing? I couldn't believe how like so reading journal articles, something about this and learn how to study. Yeah, reading journal articles is difficult until you learn how to do it. And so what do we got here? The purpose of these 3 articles is to learn how to read and extract what is significant in the article and how to build our own lit review. If you read a journal article, there are at least 50 references that go into just a few pages of writing. You ever notice that? The lit review section is a summary of all those studies. All of the articles published about this topic that the author has put into what their frame of what they're doing is, into the conversation. Now, how does an author keep track of all those articles and knowing what came from what?
You cite their sources.
But how would you do that? You employ the Derek Scott method. And the Derek Scott method is, step 1, put these sections down. Step 2, at the top of the page next to citation, you just write what will go into citation. Don't worry about like, oh, does it have a comment here? And there's programs today that will just automatically put it into whatever format you want. So just make sure everything that will go into the citation is in there. What page number is it? What's the journal of the article? Sometimes you're in such a rush to like get all the words in the sentence. The journal article, and you know, the authors, the title, whatever, all that stuff, right? So you put all that stuff at the top of the page. Copy paste the abstract right next to it. Do you know how many times? Not how many times, like 1 per semester though. When a student will take, when they say, oh, put the citation at the top of the page, they'll copy paste the references from the end of the article they're reading and throw that onto the top of the page. And it's like, in what world? How did that even make sense? I can understand maybe I don't talk clear, maybe my writing, but like, why would you ever want to do that? Just the citation of that article goes at the top of the page. This is the Derek Scott method. So now, here's what we're building. So if we were ever going to write this paper about school performance and we have 50 articles that we took, we're like scribbling on the side of it. We don't need to go back to 50 20-page articles. What's 50 times 20? 1,000, I think. Yes. 1,000. We don't need to go through those 1,000 pages because we have about a page and a half of what was significant in each article with the citation at the top. So, copy paste the abstract into it. Summarize briefly the lit review that they did. Then in methods, step by step. What are the steps that go into this? And I like bullet points more than paragraphs. Paragraphs can get lost. In bullet points, you can get right to the point. Data. Most of the time in articles, you don't probably understand the methods or like what the program was that they did it. They might have done it in like SPSS. They might have done, you're going to hear GIS thrown around. You're going to hear R thrown around. And you might not know what the statistical significance of each line is in there. That's not what's important. You don't need to be an expert on everything they did because you're doing something of how you did it. You need to just understand they used this data and came up with this out of it. Understanding the specifics of it is not what's so important. They use this data and had these outcomes. Knowing how to read their table is maybe not the most important thing. Understanding when they said these were the significant things, the same thing we were doing for the past month. For the past month, whoever we might have been presenting to doesn't need to know all of those tough analytical type of formulas we came up with. All they need to know is when we said that these were the significant things, these are the significant findings, then that's what you just write there. And that's some more bullet points. Conclusions are like a page, also of paragraphs. But guess what? Typically, each paragraph is one bullet point conclusion that they're just giving context to and explaining better. So if it's 5 paragraphs, I bet there's about 5 bullet points of what was we walk away the conclusion from. The conclusion, all of this, I know all semester you've been waiting to put your opinion in, and I keep being like, no, your opinion doesn't go there. Your opinion has no place here. Kind of in the conclusions, it's not that your opinion has a place, it's that it is your why you think it's significant, why I should care should finally go in. Your opinion doesn't go anywhere in science, but it's kind of like the why I should care, your passion maybe can finally be expressed. So, and what we're doing in conclusions, typically that's given the results of the data in the context of whether it's written in the lit review. Okay. The author and Soon Yu is finally giving their perspective on why this is important. That's what the conclusions are. You're taking what the results were from the data and putting it into the context of what happened in the lit review. So this is what we expected because of what everybody else has written, but this is what we're finding. And this is important because of something. So we would expect that low-income areas in Miami would have low school performance. But what we find is that holds true. There's a couple of areas that are not fitting into it, and that's these. These areas, perhaps, if we didn't get any data on it yet, but in our future and flaws section, future research, we might say perhaps these are factors that need more exploring of what is happening in, say, some area. So, how are we going to find this article? Because every semester, too, students will be like, are you going to give us the article? And I'm like, you just spent millions of dollars for a library that hasn't. I told you the name of it, so go find it. Strategies for closing the gap, predicting student performance in economically disadvantaged schools. That's the first article. So what is it, why is it that some places, you're not allowed to text in class? I thought you were stopping because I texted in class.
No, no one said anything.
What is it, why is it that there is a huge gap in race and in poverty in terms of school performance? Yeah, why would that be?
What was it?
Why would there be such a huge gap in the performance of students when it comes to, and when I say it's Black and Latin and being poor. And Black and Latin is worse off than being poor. So poor white students in general, I mean, it's very easy to crush that thing because poor white students from West Virginia are going to do a lot better than middle-class Black students from Atlanta. Ooh, and specifically like Atlanta, a place like that.
What was the question?
Why would that be?
Why?
Why would that be? Is there something, poor kids don't have enough time to do homework? Yes.
The fact that we, like, single moms.
Single moms.
There's a lot of like, for example, like a lot of black mothers are in jail. There's that stigma. of, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they don't have like black fathers, and so like having both parents is sometimes like, a huge issue.
Yeah.
Like also like the attention, I guess, because like my sister is a teacher and she did her like hours, whatever, before you become a teacher.
Yeah.
She did it at an inner city school, and the moms, like the black moms, when they were had to go to the school, they would literally like slap the kid and were like, "Oh, you're embarrassing me for making me come here. Like you're wasting my time, blah blah blah." And like the kids would literally walk to school alone. And then now she's like at a like Latino school, and like one kid walked to school alone the other day, and all the teachers are like, "Oh my God, what the hell? Why did that kid walk over here alone?" And like the moms are always bothering her, like, "How do you do this assignment? How do you do this? I want a meeting with you." And she's like, "Their kid isn't even failing. Why do you want to see me?"
I mean, we're taking Carter's class,
Who? Oh, Carter.
Anthropology, race, and ethnicity, and I mean, children of color are predisposed to have like lesser education. Like studies have shown that teachers generally prefer and put more problems on their white students.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's prejudice.
So it's the
It's a
teachers.
systematic racism thing.
I mean, yeah, like when she was in the inner city school, the kids loved her because they're like, "Oh, you actually care about us. Our teacher doesn't care about us." And the teacher kind of really didn't. She was just like, "Oh, well, it is what it is. Let's move on."
Where are we going?
Where are we going with this?
Relations?
Yeah, where is this one? Oof, this is crazy. Ah. That was,
That's rough.
Genius.
where would I be going with this?
You can't get jobs with tattoos.
Yeah, what are those cars called that have the really big rims on it?
You're social scientist.
Like this kind of thing.
All right.
A what? Dunks. That's what it's called.
A Newport.
Oh man, that's rough.
Look at that. Look for it. Sprite.
Yeah, so
To your point.
what would be my point?
I don't know what you're trying to get
I'm really
at.
Yeah,
So you talking about with regards to like Atlanta specifically, or like?
Oh no, I see this in
That's
Miami.
Miami.
This Miami, right? Okay.
Yes. No, I say that school performance has nothing to do with the income, and school performance has nothing to do with Black or Latin. And I actually said it before too, that you wouldn't know it here. Latin across the country is a much lower performance than Black. Miami is the outlier there. Is that it has to do with place in society. 100%. And I give the example of you. When I assign something here, if we were at MIT and I gave these same assignments, and we had the same textbooks, we don't have a textbook, but FIU, every school has the same textbooks. They don't have special textbooks at MIT. They don't have special textbooks at MDC.
Have their FAQ.
Do they?
Yeah,
Yeah, that you have to buy from them, can order it online.
because they like
That's
cut
what-
the chapters and like they switch things up.
Oh, wow. All right, but I went to a community college too. I went to Montgomery College in Maryland, and it was just the regular stuff with Merritt University.
Yeah, it's right there on the books.
You got a lot of
So that's not good. All right, well, you have places like other community colleges at MPC. You have an FIU, which is somewhere in the middle, and you have an MIT, which is some ways the best of the best. Same textbooks. 3 completely different responses and amount of energy put into the homework. It's very easy to look at somebody who has something across their face and say, well, you're never going to get a job like that. And they're looking at you like, you didn't read it? It says, fuck you. I was never getting a job anyway. That's why I got a tattoo on my face. The same way that MIT students will be nervous as hell and every week for this class do about 5 hours of homework versus FIU students will do kind of enough to kind of make sure everything's all right, but not going to spend that much time on it. Why not?
because the expectations are missing.
The expectations? From me or from you?
From just,
I think it's from you.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think the
Because
expectations
you
from
didn't go
me.
to MIT.
I'm sure it would be wonderful if you did everything that I would do, and then we would have to ask more of you. But I think the expectations of you, like this, there is a streamline. Yeah, America's wonderful. We've been able to build a middle class. But there's a place that you're gonna be at that is actually a lot harder than you can imagine to get out of. Like, there's this streamline going from, every city has these really expensive private K-12 schools. It costs about $35,000 a year now. Like 1% of America goes to those schools. If you go to MIT though, about 90% of the kids at MIT came from those schools with 1% of the population. So the rest of the public school kids, maybe if they worked everything they had, maybe they could be one of the lucky ones to get into MIT. But even then, they'd have to go to a pretty top public school. And then maybe they could get into MIT. But if not, maybe they'll go to the state school. But see, when you graduate, you're gonna kick around, not say kick rocks, but kick around and wonder, okay, how do I get to this next chapter in my life? Nobody's waiting for you on the other end when you walk across the stage to get your diploma. At Wharton School, actually, Goldman Sachs is sitting at the other side of the stage at UPenn's Wharton School of Business. And they are literally fighting to figure out, is it gonna be Goldman? Is it gonna be Morgan Stanley? Who's getting the top graduates from here? If you worked everything you had, you didn't get into UPenn, but you got into maybe FIU's business school, and you were at the top of FIU's business school, and then you could fight, and maybe you could get a job at Goldman Sachs. Maybe. But see, if you just went to the school next to Mercy Hospital, LaSalle, or Ransom, and you would just kind of you kind of did everything that you're supposed to, then you would go to a top private school for college, and you would end up, all of your friends would be on the board, their parents were on the board or something.
So it's a status from the time you're a kid.
Oh, I think so. So if you are from Black and from Cis-Trunk in Fort Lauderdale, why would you work? It doesn't quite make sense to work for this abstract idea of like going from K to 12 and every day work so much for what? So that then you could go off to college and work. Like there's nothing in the area to say that this model is actually going to pay off in the end.
It's true.
And in fact, like I am not going to, it's quite possible that the person with a dunk, like, it seems like an odd word, especially for a girl in the thing. The car, don't want the car, but the person who owns the car to have a child, quite possible. And it's also more than likely that that child doesn't have a college saving fund, but the dad got the car. We say, wow, you don't have a college savings fund, but you got the car. Well, that probably, people are a lot more logical for their world than you can imagine. For our world, that might not make that much sense. But if these are what the options are, this actually is a pretty logical thinking. I mean, you're gonna work, and work 70 hours at some job and it all pays off, so you can have a big house, and you can have people over for dinner parties, and you don't even like those people anyway. And this guy can drive down Sistrunk, and for people who probably hate him anyway, he could be the envy of all of their attention. So what's the difference?
It's almost like a cultural relativism.
Cultural relativism.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, and I just don't think I think there's a logical decision based on options that are around you. Like, it wouldn't have made sense for me to work at football and knew I was not going to play in the NFL. In fact, I never played football, and I was so happy when the doctor told me when I was in like 5th grade that like my heart has like, I was the Pop Warner or something. They wanted me to play. I'd be at the basketball teams at that time, and then they wanted me to play football. And I was like, oh my God, please, something happened. It rains in the field, just wipes away. There's a landslide, there's no more field, anything, something. Just wipe away the whole football field.
For a lot of people, like that, they do want to do that because football is like their only way to be successful.
Right. And that is actually the same way that would be a logical decision. Given everything, maybe there's a better chance of a payoff with that than the payoff of going to school and dedicating everything to some inferior school, and this might end up being, I'll be in the middle class by doing this, when I don't even have a pathway or even a knowledge of how to be in because middle class isn't just an income, it's a cultural like acceptance and standards to go with being middle class. That's why it's called middle class and not middle income. Right, because there is no actual number, it's more of do you have, are your kids going to go to college kind of thing. That's what middle class is. So if you're not, like, you realize there's schools, like lower income Black and Latin schools where if you did everything right, you worked and was just a dedicated student, you would graduate and still not be at college level. College advances every year. What is the standard of what is supposed to be college? It goes up every year. High schools in a lot of places have gone down, so that you would have to take remedial classes, like non-credit, but you gotta pay tuition college classes. Some of you are shaking your head like, yeah, I had to take a few of those. But some people, depending on where you went, even if you was the best student, you would have to take a year and even more of those remedial classes just to get to where you can start taking college classes. Not getting credit, just making up for what your high school didn't do.
It's so determined on where you live too, your school district.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I didn't realize how many people in Miami like do that thing where they lie about their address. So they can be in a better school district.
Yeah.
It's really common.
She's like, that defense address,
Yeah.
that you could be in the school.
Say they live with their cousin or something.
But it just twink FIU do that. Those high school I went to was like 5 blocks away from me, but past the line where I lived, it was supposed to be a different school. but I switched it and I did student enrollment FIU and NBC, like my junior and my senior year, and all I did was college credit. But if I would have gone to the other school, it was like, oh, you're taking like 4 art classes.
And it's just dependent on like your socioeconomic status and your value, where you are on that.
Mhm. So all of these articles, these 3, but like all the articles written, I think don't really just address that the place that people feel like they belong. Like you could literally right now, we could go. Some of you got a little more excited. We started talking about like housing and gentrification and capitalism and all this stuff happening right here in a little, the 2 square miles above Brickell. And we can study it and be like, oh wow, but like literally right now there's like 7-year-olds in Overtown and they don't know all the language and how to articulate it the way a college student or a college professor could articulate what gentrification means and the consequences of what displacement means. But by about 7th grade, I think it's pretty clear for most of the kids that live in Overtown of the same thing of like, yeah, I can see it that downtown is getting nicer. Brickell's coming at me this way, Biscayne's coming at me this way, and Wynwood's coming at me this way. And I'm probably by the time I get to junior high school, not going to live here anymore. And that's pretty insightful, especially because it would take us a whole lot of reading and like studying and figuring out that well, at the end of the day, that's what it really means. It's that this population is going to get displaced, and they can figure it out pretty quickly. I remember when I was doing my dissertation. One day I'm gonna explain to you, give you a talk about me one day. But it was just so funny because like I lived in the place that I was studying, and like I remember like once I was looking at like the shift of like public housing being shut down and the growth of housing vouchers in replacement as the housing subsidy, and I was explaining to somebody, this girl who had a housing voucher, and she just looking at me like I was the idiot. Like, wait, you get a PhD in that? That's my life. And like, who don't know that? Like, I'm like, well, University of Maryland didn't know it, so I'm getting a PhD, and you still have a housing voucher. That's not funny. But that's the reality.
It's perspective.
So, read the article, submit your first thing. I'm going to put in the next article coming soon. There's a whole lot of messages here, as if somebody was, no messages. Stuff about new from Little Donnie. Wait, is this my sign-in or yours? Okay.
Actually, it might be yours.
Because my son
Your
does
son,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
I saw all of his subscriptions.
Yeah.